He said, when you want to succeed as bad as you want to breathe, then you'll be successful. I don't know how many of y'all got asthma in here today, but if you ever had an asthma attack before, you short of breath, SOB, shortness of breath, you wheezing. The only thing you trying to do is get some air. You don't care about no basketball game. You don't care what's on TV. You don't care about nobody calling you. You don't care about a party. The only thing you care about when you're trying to breathe is to get some fresh air. That's it. And when you get to the point where all you want to do is be successful as bad as you want to breathe, then you'll be successful. I don't ask for much these days, and I don't bitch and whine if I don't get my way. I only wanna burn a thousand lovers behind my lover's back. I sit and watch it from standing where I'm at. Burn a thousand lovers behind my lover's back, and I'm keeping my secrets mine.
All right, I want to welcome on Kerri, or not Kerri, I'm sorry, Kerrivah, Kerri Hurd to the Philly Famous podcast. Kerri, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Feel blessed to be here. I was just telling Greg that my car was sliding like a block over from his house. So the fact that I made it to this interview is pretty dope.
Yeah, we actually had to cancel a couple days ago because of the snowstorm, and Lincoln Drive is always pretty tough.
Yeah.
So it's happy 2018, first of all. What was your New Year's resolution?
I had a lot of New Year's resolutions actually. Wait, I have it right here in my notes, so I'll pull right from there. See, I'm prepared. Okay, I'm not prepared. Okay, here we go. So I'll just do two. So I'm currently fixing my website to be something a little bit more user friendly and attractive, in my opinion. So that was one of my New Year's resolutions, along with like bossing up my promotional content and my publishing consistency. I'm supposed to publish every Sunday, but that doesn't really happen. So I want to get into that. I also want to become a freelancer or a contributor for Huffington Post and Vibe Magazine or Complex. So those are most noteworthy too.
So right now you're a fourth year at Drexel University. You're also a fellow Central High alum of mine, but you're still in school, but you also have your own blog and website.
Yeah.
What is that called, and I guess how did you start it?
So I kept it pretty cool. I made the blog my name, so it's KerrivahHurd.com. But the blog isn't about me at all. I actually find people, I find Black youth to profile, and they're from a variety of different places and have a variety of different stories, but what connects everyone together is this consistent storyline of overcoming barriers to achieve their dreams. So for example, and I always think about this story because it was my first one, I did a mommy and me modeling duo, and the mother got pregnant at 16. So she's 23 now. Her daughter is 6. And what she basically did was made the modeling industry her babysitter. So her daughter is now a model too. So they're often like booked together, and she doesn't have to worry about anyone like, finding someone to watch her daughter or anything like that. So all of the stories are connected through this storyline of overcoming obstacles to achieve your dreams.
Where do you generally find your, your people to write about?
So some people I have known, but not on like a really personal basis, kind of just like a high and by through like school or some other life experience that we met. And then other people, I'm literally just like searching my Explore page, stalking their Instagram, feeling like they'll be interested enough to, write a full story on, and then hitting them up and they write me back and say that they're down, and we do it.
And what initially, attracted you to journalism? Because I know on your bio on your website it says you're a journalist through and through.
Right. So I've always liked writing. So I always make this joke about my love for journalism, starting with like this cheetah print pink diary. But it really did. I used to kind of write about like my complicated teenage years or whatever. And I'm sorry, I can't talk today. The entries weren't like really in depth, anything worth publishing, but they kind of like really initiated my love for writing because it became like a habit. And that's just how I got into journalism. Now my focus is a lot more in depth. Like I really want to use journalism to give voices to marginalized and underrepresented voices. And that wasn't the intention of my diary entries. But that's kind of what gave me my love for writing. That makes sense.
So you just mentioned, your big thing is connecting and amplifying underrepresented voices and marginalized people.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think storytelling is an effective way to bring, attention to the struggle?
Yeah, so I kind of didn't really get into this until college, but I started realizing how people really use the media to make up images. Like the media is our eyes for things we can't actually see. Like before I went to London, because I just went to London recently in August, I kind of had this idea of what London looked like from like the TV shows and stuff that I watch. So people have the same ideas for people. Like if you don't know a group of people, you're kind of gathering your perceptions from media. So I really feel like storytelling is the perfect outlet to kind of give people authentic images to go off of rather than one-dimensional images. So that's what my blog is all about.
Because I feel like usually, or maybe not always, in the media, if you're just getting your depiction of a place or a group of people from the media, it's usually wrong.
Exactly.
But you're saying you want to use it in a more authentic way.
Exactly.
But how are people gonna look at you and be like, okay, this is real versus some other form of media that's not?
Exactly. And that's the hard part because it's like what makes me reliable or trustworthy. So that's why I try to start all of these blog posts off with pretty much telling people why I'm interested in the people that I'm blogging about. So then that way, like where my creative direction in a sense is coming from. Like, why does she feel like these people are worth telling a story about and how can she relate to these people? So I think just kind of positioning it in like a first person narrative kind of like adds to my credibility as a blogger.
And you really like storytelling. I've noticed that a lot in your writing style. I like storytelling. So as a kid growing up, were you a really good liar? Do you like to make up stories and tell lies? Yeah,
I was actually. And that might be like I'm kind of into horoscopes too. That might be like a Scorpio thing. I know a lot of Scorpios are like really good liars. So, but I grew out of that. So now my storytelling, I really like movies. I really like music, which is like a really dope form of storytelling to me. And then I start getting into like podcasts, just using like a lot of different media to kind of hone in on that love now.
What are some of your favorite movies?
My favorite movie ever is Finding Nemo. I'm really into Disney movies because they're like low key but have like really deep messages, and I like stuff like that.
Definitely.
So Finding Nemo is my top. I just watched another movie recently, and I was like, oh my god, this is my favorite. Or I thought about it. Oh, it's called Deuce Bigalow, Mel Gigolo.
Shit,
which is something I really shouldn't have been watching because it was about this guy who was like pursuing all these women, and basically he broke his friend's fish tank while he was away. So he was like messing with these women to get the money back. But I don't know. I watched it growing up, and like now it's just one of my favorite movies.
Okay. No, I actually think in today's day and age, I really feel like TV shows have junked movies in terms of the quality of production and like storytelling.
Right.
So to me, like I haven't been to the movie theaters in like
seriously
a year because I'm all about binge watching TV shows.
So what's your favorite TV show?
TV show?
Yeah.
Game of Thrones. No,
Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones, Breaking Bad.
Okay.
Westworld. I had no idea I liked fantasy until I started Game of Thrones, and it's just completely expanded my mind to to fantasy and imagination, and I'm glad I'm no longer a single dimension person.
That's dope. See, I actually I haven't watched Game of Thrones, and I don't really get into fantasy, so maybe I should try it. But I'm more of like a realistic TV show person, so I love Insecure.
Same, I like Insecure as well.
Yeah, that's the HBO show. I really like Power. 50 Cent's show that come on in the summer. I like Being Mary Jane. That's Gabrielle Union's TV show, and she's a news anchor in that show, so I kind of like get to see what my life could be like through watching that.
Have you checked out Black Mirror yet?
No, I haven't.
You ever heard of it?
No.
It's they just released a new season on Netflix, and it's like every episode is with different characters. You don't have to watch like one by one because like you can watch any one and it'll be fine. And it's really just like making predictions about the future, especially with technology.
I heard of it.
It's like a really like it's really depressing because it shows what our society like is going to be like, and it's not. Fun.
Actually, I did hear about that. We were talking about that in one of my graduate courses. It was telecommunication regulation and policy, and we explored like the impact of technology a lot. So that TV show came up.
I want to circle back to your idea of representing underrepresented voices. What types of marginalized groups have you worked with?
See, my blog is particularly focused with Black youth. And that's because that's a part of my identity. So I know a lot of, Black young kids that I could very much so easily use. And then I also feel obligated to like represent for them. So the whole reason I started this blog was because I've been in a lot of situations where I've been the only one. I go to Drexel University, and it's about 7% Black. So being like a dual degree student where I'm getting my bachelor's and my master's, I'll end up in classes where I'm the only Black person. And I work at Comcast, and I'll end up on a team where I'm the only Black person. So being like the only Black person, I always feel kind of like pressure to represent. So this blog was like, okay, there's like way more people like me, you know? So I got some heat about it being like just strictly Black, but it's not like a personal thing. It's just me wanting people to like know more Black people that are,
you got to create your identity.
That are like really determined. And people have this idea of youth being like very entitled. So my blog kind of like combats those stereotypes while, letting you guys get to know people like me.
Yeah, and that's, you kind of got that sense of reality going to Drexel, because I feel like at Central, where I went to high school, that wasn't the experience at all. There's a little bit of everything. You never felt like you were only one Black person. You never felt like you were the only gay person. You never felt like,
exactly.
A little bit of everything.
Right. Central was very, it was diverse and it was inclusive. And that's kind of how I'm trying to get back to that space. Yeah.
And it's really not the real world, which is unfortunate. Like
exactly.
Sometimes I think about Central and I think about that's like a fantasy of what I want the world to be like, where everyone embraces each other and like you said, it's really inclusive.
Yeah, and I feel like because there are, Black stories out there, but I feel like they're one-dimensional. Like you don't get the full Black experience. Like you'll see what's kind of saturated in the media is this idea of like Black people being like really ghetto and like really low and fathers being missing from the home, but you don't get like the other side of it. So I kind of wanted to give that other side in the sense that like we have college degrees and we're educated and we can speak eloquently, like just kind of trying to go against the stereotypes that's out there. So
you're telling stories of success, not necessarily stories of struggle.
Exactly. That's exactly what I'm doing.
Who were some of the journalists and storytellers that you kind of admired and followed growing up?
The thing is, I'm kind of like, I've always had a love for writing, but I'm very new with journalism. I'll say, so I've always admired Oprah, but not because she was a journalist, just because like she's a very good like woman to me. But if I had to speak like in terms of a journalist that I admire right now, it would actually be someone named Sophia Ballin, and she's really young, and she kind of took me in as a mentor.
You know her personally?
Yeah, and I know her personally, and she's the reason that I met Karen Civil as well. So I really
Who's
like
that?
Karen Civil, and Karen Civil is like my idol. Mm-hmm. So I really admire Sophia for like always trying to bring other youth to the table, because she's one of the like youngest writers at Philly.com, or she was, because she recently moved on and like is doing her own thing, freelancing and stuff now.
So Philly.com is like the online version of the newspaper, right?
Exactly.
So there's this rise right now in digital media, and I know that's kind of what you want to be in. Mm-hmm. Print media is dying, very for so. Lack of a better word. I guess what is the real future of media in general, especially with the rise of Twitter and other forms of social media where people don't really need to go on some formal site to read?
Yeah. So I feel like where media is going, like none of us could say, because even though right now like Twitter and Facebook and etc. is very hot, the media industry is ever changing and it moves and develops just as fast as technology does. So I definitely can't predict like the future of it, but I do know that I want to be in the digital media space because I really love the amount of feedback that you can get and how fast like stories evolve. I think the digital space really breaks boundaries because anything that was local before has the potential to be global at this point. Like even if it just makes Philly.com, like people in South Africa can very much so read it because it's online. So that's something I really admire about the digital space.
So would your dream job be to write for Philly.com or something like that?
Yeah, my dream job would be to write for a digital publication that really kind of aligns with my mission of giving a voice to underrepresented
social
people.
Justice.
Exactly. So I can imagine myself as something like NBC BLK, which is a microsite for Black community information and news. Somewhere like Essence, which really prioritizes Black women, stuff like that.
That's really cool. No, I'm trying to figure out kind of what I want to do myself. And I know with this podcast, I'm having a lot of fun and I'm somewhat passionate about it, but I also want to find something to do in my life that really empowers people and helps people. So I'm finding a way that maybe this podcast can do that.
Yeah.
But that's why I originally wanted to get into coaching, because I wanted to work with kids directly. But I do think that like the perfect job for what you're describing, what I wanted to do, is doing something both that's fun, that you love, that you're passionate about, but also helps people.
Exactly.
And you also, part of your job description, or I guess the description on your website, is brand ambassador.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean?
So I've had a few roles actually, but where I kind of helped people get their message across. Like, for example, my cousin started a clothing line that was called Girl Code. And she had these sweatshirts that said "Pretty Girls Chase Degrees." So online, I feel like I'm pretty much known as like being serious about school, you know, getting my business done and stuff like that. So the mission of her brand kind of aligned with who I am, you know, on the internet. So I just kind of helped her get that message out there. And I think it was successful because of the alignment. So that's the type of things that I try to get into as far as brand ambassador.
And I think that kind of job is becoming more important, right? Because now with the rise of social media, people can self-brand, but not everyone knows how to do that at a high level. So exactly. I feel like brand ambassadors, social media curators, I'm noticing that they're all over the place now, and they really need them.
Exactly. So one of my just tying back to one of your questions in the very beginning, New Year's resolutions. One of my other New Year's resolutions is to become a college ambassador for Live Nation. So I spoke with this woman recently about it, and what it basically is, like, it's not paid, it's not an internship, but it's kind of like a ticket trade system. So every time that I work a concert with Live Nation, like they'll give me a free ticket to a concert of my choice. And I love going to concerts. I really love music, all kinds of music. So that's one of the things I want to get involved with in 2018.
Who do you think are some of the best musicians in terms of storytelling?
I think Beyonce always has a good message. Jay-Z as well. I'm like team J and B, so that's a little biased. But then I really like Adele too.
Interesting.
Yeah, which a lot of people probably won't expect from me, because like I play a lot of music on like my Insta story, but it's usually like hip hop and stuff, just because Adele is like really slow and like.
No, I would say my pick would be J. Cole.
J. Cole? Yeah, I love J. Cole.
I think like I can follow his from beginning to end of his album and his song. I can follow the story, so I think he's really gifted at doing that.
Right. What do you think his best album is?
Best album?
Because he's one of my favorite rappers. That's why I'm asking.
I'm gonna go with best song because.
Okay.
Best J. Cole song. Man, I like Crooked Smile. I like Workout, Power Trip, mainly all the old stuff.
Yeah, I like Wet Dreams too.
Yeah, Wet Dreams. Wet Dreams is great. Yeah.
Yeah.
So like I said, you're at Drexel. I'm at Temple. And I've been having these conversations the last couple of days with people around me and my family about really the flaws with higher education. And I've noticed that a lot of peers of ours, especially urban kids, are really valuing work over school.
Right.
And whether you're in school or not, especially when you're in school, I feel like, you, me, Javi right now, who's filming this.
Shout out to Javi.
So shout out to Javi. We're all trying to figure out what we want to do and do our work while we're in school as well. And a lot of my friends are putting more time into their work than their school. And I guess I want to ask you, how do you think school has helped you with what you want to do besides just getting the degree? Like, do you think you've learned things in school to help you become a better journalist?
Yeah, I actually have. So I didn't know much about the journalism world at all before I got involved in it. Like I said before, I've always loved writing, but like never really thought about pursuing it as a career. So let me backtrack a little bit to how I decided. I was sitting in my room with my brother, and it had kind of been confirmed that I was going to Drexel because I got a full tuition scholarship. So like, where else would I go? And I had a pamphlet of like majors that they offered, and the book that Drexel prepared with the majors have like a description, and they have concentration. So different ways in which you could specialize this degree. And I was just flipping through, reading them to figure out like what I wanted to do. Like, I knew I was going to college because it had always been positioned as something I had to do, like by my parents, but I never knew what I would go for. So when I came across journalism, I'm just like, okay, this sounds like me. Like, I love writing, I love new people, I love storytelling, and these were things I already knew about myself, just didn't know like what career encompassed all of those. So once I decided on journalism, I kind of learned everything from school. So down to like the AP style book, to like the various mediums, all of that Drexel taught me. And then Drexel is also really good about getting you experience because we have to do internships in order to graduate.
Right, Drexel is special in that way. I think that's a really practical way to learn. Because I think learning by doing is probably more important than learning by watching or listening.
Exactly.
So, for example, with this podcast, I was horrific with anything to do with computers or technology before. Now I've learned how to use GarageBand. I've learned how to use different softwares to record. I've learned certain marketing and business strategies to market my podcast.
Exactly.
I've become a better writer, a better public speaker. So I think for me, just these 2 months of doing this, I've learned skills that are going to translate to the job market almost probably more than the stuff I've learned in school. That being said, I do really think it's important to learn from others, and that's why, I think it's important for someone like you, someone like me, to not just do your own thing. I think it's like this summer I want to work for somebody else to learn from them.
Exactly.
But I do think that starting your own thing and learning by doing is huge.
Yeah, and you can also, like you said, you're learning like from the job market, and by being hands-on, you can also kind of tailor your school schedule to things that you want to know in order to do better in the job market. Like, for example, I was working at Comcast and realized that video editing would be something essential for my role at Comcast. So then I started taking video editing courses. So you can kind of like, go back and forth with how you tailor your school schedule too.
We're going to play a game called the Choice Challenge.
Okay.
If you listened before, I named 2 things. You got to pick one. All right. Cornel West or Ta-Nehisi Coates?
Cornel West.
Really?
Yeah.
Because he's getting slammed on social media right now for coming at Coates.
Yeah, so right now, I just feel like he's pretty popular, so that's probably the first thing that popped in my head. I love Family Feud, so this kind of reminded me of Fast Money. I felt like I had to think quick.
Okay. Toni Morrison or Maya Angelou?
Maya Angelou. Gimme. Yeah.
Would you rather have dinner with Donald Trump or Bill Cosby?
Bill Cosby. I don't even know where you're from.
What's harder in today's day and age, being black or being female?
That one's a hard question. Can it be equal? Equally?
Tell me why.
Well, like if you're black and you're female, you're like a minority in 2 stances, so you get hit both ways. People have very low expectations for both groups as well, so I think they're on the same level.
Do you feel it every day?
Yeah and no. So, that's a hard question. It depends on like where I am. So I'm in a lot of networks that are kind of like black specific. So like, for example, the Philadelphia Association of Black Journalists. So I don't feel like I'm really welcomed around them. So being a woman and being black is just my identity. Like, it's not something for them to discriminate against me, because that environment is kind of like warm and inclusive. But being at Drexel, I think it's more of a problem being black than it is being a woman. So it kind of depends on where I am.
Would you rather know your future right now for the rest of your life and know your future, or would you rather know the future of everyone else around you except for yourself?
Oh, wow. Everyone else around me except for myself, because then that way I can kind of figure myself out and then team up with the people.
Very true. Very true.
The future I know will help me. Yeah.
What are your top 3 best and brightest publications?
Top 3 best and brightest publications.
Whether it's a magazine, newspaper, online journal, blog. What are your favorites?
I love the New York Times, which is like the journalism guide. I really love BuzzFeed, because I feel like they're doing things differently. And they're one of the publications that kind of like, correct me if I'm wrong, started online. So it feels more integrated.
Definitely.
And then I also really like the Huffington Post. The Huffington Post has like, I don't know if it's like a separate venture or a microsite, but they have the Huffington Post Black Voices, which does a really good job at covering the Black community.
No, and I like how you named 2, pretty mainstream publications and one pretty new and up and coming one. That's because I think they're both important. How has being from Philly at all affected your writing or your writing style?
Ooh, interesting. Well, we can go in terms of my blog. Most of the people that I've interviewed have been from Philly thus far. I also feel like my writing is almost a sense a reflection of me. Like, it can go from being really eloquently and really formal to kind of like informal and down to earth. And I pretty much feel like that's how I am. I don't know if that's like a Philly thing, but that's definitely like how I am. And I try to be, authentic to myself through my writing.
What's the story of Philly that you want to tell? Because like you said, most of your people have been from Philly. Are you trying to tell a greater story of Philadelphia?
Yeah, I am actually. I'm trying to tell a greater story of Philadelphia, but I'm also, being really honest in how Philly is. Like, for example, a piece that I did recently on a kid named Shiz, and he's a barber. I opened up the story talking about how, I can't remember the number directly, but I think it was how 26 teenagers have been killed in 2017. So that's a reflection of Philadelphia, whether bad or good. Like, it was something I needed to include in my story to get the message out.
You're going to be brutally honest with facts.
Exactly. But then the story kind of cascaded down to share a relationship between Shiz and his mentor, who's both from Philly, to really show that, like, that brotherly love is still there,
City of brotherly love.
City of brotherly love. That sisterly affection.
What's your favorite thing about Philly?
I like the size of Philly. I feel like it's a main city. Like, it's up there with like a LA or like a New York, and Atlanta, but it's way smaller. And you can kind of get anywhere in a matter of minutes. So I really like its size. What
living or dead Philadelphian, well known, do you most admire and why?
Mark Lamont Hill, and I feel like he's well known.
Tell me who that is again. I know the name.
Yeah, he's from Philly. He's in like the journalism world. So he was a CNN commentator and also did some work with BT as well. He's now a Temple professor, and he just recently opened up his own business called Uncle Bobby's, which is a bookstore right up Germantown Ave. It's like Germantown and Church Lane, I think. But I really admire Mark because I feel like he's authentic. And there's a lot of self-censoring in the media industry, and like he just always tells it, how it is. So I admire him for that.
And where's your favorite place to get a cheesesteak?
Ishkabibbles.
Okay, I think you're the third or fourth person that said that.
He's over there giving me a thumbs down.
Yeah. So where can people find your blog, and is there anything that you're releasing pretty soon?
Yeah, so I actually was finishing up a piece before I got here that so I'm really into quotes, and I collected quotes from everybody that I wrote a story on in 2017. So I published 10 blog posts. So it's 10 quotes for forward thinking in 2018, and that should be out tonight or early tomorrow. But people can find my blog in my personal Instagram bio. So my Instagram is @MediaMavenKH, and I always drop the latest link in my bio. I also have another Instagram that's specifically for my blog, and it's @Kerrivah, and that's KERRIV as in Victor. I always say as in Victor. KERRIV as in Victor, HEARD, and the blog is up there as well. And it's KerrivahHeard.com if you guys are not on Instagram.
Yeah, I'm doing something similar with quotes. Like I think you've seen all of my Instagram. Like I have quotes from my podcast guests. Right. I think quotes are pretty cool too.
Exactly.
Is there anything else you want to plug? I know you said you were having a mixer in February.
Yeah, so I'm aiming to have this mixer in February. I really want to make it a once a season thing because I feel like we don't really have a place for like young people to gather on like a professional vibe. Like there's so many places we can like go out and like turn up or do something like that. But as far as like talking business and making dreams attainable together, we don't really have that space. So I'm trying to create it.
So this is not going to be a turn up.
It's not going. It's going to be somewhat turned up though, but just in like in a different manner, So we'll be doing elevator pitches. That's turned up. And I really want to have a photo booth. I want to have like some games.
That'll be fun.
Yeah. So I want it to be fun, and I want it to be an environment where people can be themselves. But I also want people to take home like business nuggets. Like why a 30-second elevator pitch is something that you need to know how to do. Stuff like that.
And so, all young professionals.
Yep, all young professionals.
Yeah, I think it's so important to surround yourself by the next generation. And
exactly.
Because our generation is next, and it's different than the current generation. So I think it's important for us to collaborate and support each other.
Yeah, and I always like through my blog, especially, I meet people that I feel like should know each other. Because like one person is a videographer, the other person is a photographer. They could like tackle events together. So I really want to use like my connector abilities this year, kind of like bridge those gaps.
Same. Yeah.
So that's what the mixer is about. So stay tuned. To everybody that's listening.
All right, Kerrivah, I want to thank you so much for being on. It's a lot of fun, and I wish you luck with everything 2018.
Thank you. Same to you. Happy New Year.
Who the players making money now? Yeah, that's us. Restless when it's sunny now. Yeah, that's us. Crystal at the bar now. Yeah, that's us. 20 inches on the car now. Yeah, that's us. But who the players most hated now? Yeah, that's us. Straight from the hood, but we made it now. Yeah, that's us. Black to platinum plated now. Yeah, that's us. Come on, baby, say saying now? Yeah, that's us. Yo, listen here, playboy, we gon' get that dough. Face of the Cartier, tic-tac-toe. Casse and spade, where you get that flow? To the sky when I hit that. 3 to the 5 as I skip that 4. What you need to know where my grip at for? I know cats be on some slimy and they be flogging in them whips. We had in 96 and when Tone died, it left my mind in a twist. Yeah, that's us at the bar with the Don and the Chris. And I promise you this, blow up, I'm gon' do that. 5 coupe land on a lot, Royal Blue that. Real dog never drops soil where his food at. Don't eat and don't spit if you eat. New Benz, Robbers kit, matching feet, platinum on the chain, Alaskan in the peaks. Yeah, that's us.